Christian Silver reporting there. A woman who claims she and former Sydney school teacher Chris Dawson engaged in sexual activity when she was his 16-year-old student has been challenged over her story about how the two first met. Dawson is facing a charge of carnal knowledge of a girl aged under 17. Reporter Ruby Cornish joins us now. Ruby, g'day. So where are proceedings up to?
Hi Joe. Well, this was day 4 of the trial. Chris Dawson is facing one charge of carnal knowledge of a girl aged over 10 and under 17. I think it's probably important to point out to viewers who may have heard Chris Dawson's name. That's because he was convicted of murdering his first wife, Lynette Sims, last year and is currently serving a maximum of 24 years in prison for that. This is a separate matter. So the complainant in this case, who's known only by her pseudonym AB, says that when she was a 16-year-old student at the high school where Chris Dawson taught, the two began engaging in sexual activity that first happened at his parents' home. Chris Dawson doesn't dispute that they had a sexual relationship, but says that it began later on when she was older than 16. So today that complainant was being cross-examined on basically the timeline of events that she gave and challenged on that timeline.
And what happened in the cross-examination today?
Well, one of the main things she was challenged on is this story that she tells about how she and Chris Dawson first met. So AB told the court earlier this week that when she was in the playground at school, Chris Dawson came up to her and showed her a photograph that had been taken of her at a social event topless, and that he had confiscated that photograph off somebody else. But the defence, under cross-examination, was pointing to earlier police statements that AB had made in which she was asked when she first had contact with Chris Dawson, and said it was actually the following year when she was his student at school, and pointing out that discrepancy. Another allegation that AB made had to do with sexual activity that allegedly occurred in Chris Dawson's office at school. It was put to her that activity did not happen when she was 16 years old, that it actually happened the following year, and that when it did happen, it was on rare occasions. She disputed that, and she said it was definitely when she was 16 years old.
And what's happening next in this trial?
Well, the prosecution has indicated that once AB's evidence has wrapped up, this trial will move relatively quickly. It's been set down for 2 weeks. Her cross-examination is not quite complete. It will probably wrap up tomorrow. We're expecting to hear from a number of other witnesses, including people who were former schoolmates of AB's who went to the same high school, talking about what they saw and heard at the time. Chris Dawson was there in person for the first 2 days of the trial, but has since been excused from appearing in person due to his ill health, so he will be appearing via video link for the remainder of the trial.
Okay, we'll leave there, Ruby Cornish.